Welcome to One Chapter, One Thought. I'm Pastor Chris from Lincroft Bible Church in New Jersey, and every weekday I read one chapter of the Bible and offer one brief devotional thought. Today's reading is from the book of Proverbs, chapter 10. The Proverbs of Solomon. A wise child brings joy to a father. A foolish child brings grief to a mother. Tainted wealth has no lasting value, but right living can save your life. The Lord will not let the godly go hungry, but he refuses to satisfy the craving of the wicked. Lazy people are soon poor. Hard workers get rich. A wise youth harvests in the summer, but the one who sleeps during harvest is a disgrace. The godly are showered with blessings. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. We have happy memories of the godly, but the name of a wicked person rots away. The wise are glad to be instructed, but babbling fools fall flat on their faces. People with integrity walk safely, but those who followed crooked paths will be exposed. People who wink at wrong cause trouble, but a bold reproof promotes peace. The words of the godly are a life-giving fountain. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. Hatred stirs up quarrels, but love makes up for all offenses. Wise words come from the lips of people with understanding, but those lacking sense will be beaten with a rod. Wise people treasure knowledge, but the babbling of a fool invites disaster. The wealth of the rich is their fortress. The poverty of the poor is their destruction. The earnings of the godly enhance their lives, but evil people squander their money on sin. People who accept discipline are on the pathway to life, but those who ignore correction will go astray. Hiding hatred makes you a liar. Slandering others makes you a fool. Too much talk leads to sin, but be sensible and keep your mouth shut. The words of the godly are like sterling silver. The heart of a fool is worthless. The words of the godly encourage many, but fools are destroyed by their lack of common sense. The blessing of the Lord makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Doing wrong is fun for a fool, but living wisely brings pleasure to the sensible. The fears of the wicked will be fulfilled. The hopes of the godly will be granted. When the storms of life come, the wicked are whirled away, but the godly have a lasting foundation. Lazy people irritate their employers, like vinegar to the teeth or smoke in the eyes. Fear of the Lord lengthens one's life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. The hopes of the godly result in happiness, but the expectations of the wicked come to nothing. The way of the Lord is a stronghold to those with integrity, but it destroys the wicked. The godly will never be disturbed, but the wicked will be removed from the land. The mouth of the godly person gives wise advice, but the tongue that deceives will be cut off. The lips of the godly speak helpful words, but the mouth of the wicked speaks perverse words. One thought. As we dip back into the book of Proverbs today, chapter 10 begins a new section in the book. The first 9 chapters were focused on Solomon's sermons on wisdom, and there was often these appeals from the personification of wisdom where she would call out to the foolish or the simple or young people, hey, come, find life in me, learn from me, and all of these admonitions there. It was, if we could summarize what the first 9 chapters were really all about, I guess you could say it's, hey, get wisdom. Now, in chapter 10, which is marked off with a heading, verse 1 says, the Proverbs of Solomon. This section contains most of what you might think the Proverbs are, these short, pithy, often 2-line sayings that invite further reflection. For example, we see this in verse 26. Lazy people irritate their employers, like vinegar to the teeth or smoke in the eyes. So here, Solomon is writing about how a worker relates to his employer and then uses these ideas of vinegar and smoke to help us reflect on the text. So let's dig into those two things a little bit more. When we think of vinegar here, it refers to wine that ended up becoming acidic and sour and turned into vinegar. Now, sometimes this vinegar would be mixed and diluted to be given to workers to drink as a source of refreshment. For example, in the book of Ruth 2:14, it's used in that way. But here, this idea of vinegar is speaking to just undiluted, vinegar. And since there was no dental care in the ancient Near East, we can assume that many people had poor teeth. Now, you could imagine then the shock, the dismay, how painful it might be if they were expecting sweet wine, but they received undiluted vinegar to drink. All right, so now think of that image, right? And that is being used as a comparison to talk about the lazy person. Imagine the shock and the hurt and the disappointment that sets in with lazy workers. Imagine yourself being a boss, or maybe you are a boss, but imagine yourself that you finally are hiring someone. You're short-staffed for such a long time. You feel overwhelmed with all the work that you're having to do, and you finally are able to hire someone, and you're so excited about that, and then they turn out to be a lazy worker. That would be extremely frustrating for you, and that would also set you back further than before you didn't even have them. So let's take a moment then to examine our own lives so that we are not like vinegar to the teeth or smoke to the eyes, particularly as we think about our employers. Are we being faithful in our jobs? Are we being faithful in the responsibilities that God is giving us, working hard, fulfilling those things, showing up on time, completing assignments, doing the things that God has called us to do?